What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful night. Beautiful night tonight. Sunday. The weekend is over. Although technically Sunday is the first day of the week. All right. Water, delicious. So, I want to make some tea. Brand new tea. Twinnings. Classic Irish breakfast tea. So, right there, Irish breakfast tea. I have a screen because it's loose leaf. Have a cup with 1 teaspoon of sugar. A lot of times I don't put any sugar in my tea, but tonight 1 teaspoon. It's all sealed up, see? Gotta take that off. We'll plug it. That smells great. Nice. This is very thinly ground up. All right. One of these goes into one of these. Where's this tea from? I know it says Irish, but is it? I think that means it's a type of tea. I don't know if it's made in Ireland. I don't think so. I don't know, it doesn't say. I'm sure it says somewhere on there, but I'll find it after. So, put that in here. Have some hot water right here. Right there. I typically leave it for 5 minutes. I could leave it for 10. 5 minutes is good enough. See the time here. Five minutes. So today was a quiet day. We hung around at the house, watched a little television, and nothing beyond that. But yesterday I was at Paramount Studios. All right, I'm back. Had to do a little editing there. Had to check something. But anyway, yesterday I went to Paramount Studios and I was at stage number 19. Stage number 19 was where Happy Days was filmed or taped, whatever you want to say. But also The Odd Couple. And I want to say a story that I've said before, I've told before here, but I feel like saying it again. So, when I was a kid, about that big, I used to watch The Odd Couple. Loved that show. I don't know why I loved it so much, but it would put me in a pensive mood, right? So I would be in my room, lights were always off, TV was on, blue light sneaking underneath the door, and I would sit on my bed watching The Odd Couple. And when I would hear the theme, the opening, there's a little bit of a monologue that takes place, a narration that takes place at the very beginning, where Felix gets kicked out of the house by his wife, and he's all, you know, whatever, and he's getting ready to leave, and then she opens up the door, hands him the pan, he leaves, ends up at Oscar Madison's place, apartment, and they become roommates. And it says that a few years before that, Oscar Madison's wife asked him to leave and not to return or whatever. And I don't know what it is about that theme and that narration and that whole visual of the opening scene, of the opening credits of that show. But when I was a kid, and still to this day I feel the same way, it would put me in this mood of questioning, like, where am I? What is all this all about? You know, I mean, what's, like, these people on the show were ahead of me, and I viewed them kind of like they already have been through where I've been, and now they're older, and this is what life gets to be when you get older. You get an apartment somewhere, maybe in the city, and you end up like these guys. Let me finish this out here. And just the whole theme, that it would put me into this thing, like thinking about life. At that age, at that little tiny age that I was back then, I would think about what is this? It's the same way you would feel if you were born into the world as an adult. Like, say you just popped in, like right now, with your mind fully developed, and you were just like, what's going on? Where did I come from? That's how I would feel listening to the opening credits of The Odd Couple. So that's why it's easier to accept the world that we live in if you grow into it gradually. But if you appear fully grown out of nothingness and you just boom here, you would be blown away. Psychologically, it would be damaging. You wouldn't be able to comprehend what's all this, where'd I come from, you know. But because we grow into it from our baby days, slowly absorbing a little bit at a time, rather than being here and then being shocked by our existence. That's why it's a little bit easier to handle. I'm gonna let it cool off a little bit. But and that theme song, even now when I hear it, it puts me in that state of mind. Tough to, I can't really describe it unless you know what I'm talking about. But it was just one of those music pieces, along with the narration, that would put me in that mood of questioning, what's going on here? You know, what are we, you know, what are we part of? What is this? So I used to watch that show every week, and I still enjoy it. I don't know, I always thought you grow up and you get older, you get an apartment somewhere, and then you kind of roam the streets of New York, which I'm a big roamer. I can't tell you how many times I would be on the subway system as a kid, aimlessly going from one stop to the next, and then getting on one train to another bus, back on a train, and then a lot of times just roaming the streets of downtown. Did that a lot. A lot of walking in those days. But yeah, I always question the reality we're in and where did it come from. Ooh, look what I see. I see Mr. Possum showed up. They don't fear me. I mean, there's a possum right there. I will take a picture of him. I will show you. Look at that. The possum shows up right there. I'm here talking, not afraid. I mean, obviously it's the first time I've seen a bee out at night. There's a bee right there. It's out at night. I feel like telling it go before you get hurt here. So got a story to tell about that Odd Couple thing. It's a true story, 100% true. And I've said it before on this channel, but like I said, I feel like saying it again right now. I feel like getting rid of that bee, because then I have to concentrate on the bee and on my my story. Let's try the tea. Smells great. Delicious. Delicious tea. I love tea. That's so good. So good. So, the odd show. Oh, there he is. There he is. Oh, gotta get him. Looks like he's after me. You know what's gonna happen? I'm gonna spill my tea. I don't know why he's out. He should be back in his beehive. Maybe he's attracted by the light. I'll be right back. Alright, I am back. I don't know what happened to the bee. I don't know. I don't really see bees at night. I never see bees at night. You know what that means? Earthquake coming. So, anyway, I'm going to tell my odd couple story right now. And like I said, I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. But many years ago, when the show was still on the air, and I was about that big, my parents and I had gone to this pond in the city. So here's the pond, and then this side grassy areas, and my parents had opened up a big blanket, and they were sitting on there, you know, just enjoying the summer. My mother fell asleep. I have a funny story about that, but my mother fell asleep. My father was just, you know, hanging out there, and I decided I was going to take a walk around the pond. Back then they allowed children to separate from their parents and explore. Can't do that anymore, but back then you could. So I was walking around, and I got about a third of the way, and I know exactly where this place is, so if I go back there I know exactly where the spot was where this happened. And I was walking, right next to me was kind of like a hippie looking guy, you know, longer hair, a mustache, unshaved a little bit, and he was right next to me as I was walking around the corner, and all of a sudden a big Cadillac, one of those big you know, early 70s Cadillacs show up, and it was a 4-door, but then it had that extension thing in the back, so it was bigger than a 4-door. And all of a sudden the brakes screech, the door opens up, a guy comes out, and then another guy comes out, and they tell the guy who was next to me, hold it right there, you know, and he sees them, and he doesn't run like around the pond or something where it's easier. He runs into the pond, and he starts swimming, and I'm looking at the guy who just came out of the Cadillac, and I immediately recognize him as Tony Randall. And I'm not kidding, 100% Tony Randall. This is like, I identified him the same way I could identify a relative or a parent or something. It was that obvious that it was him. So the guy that was next to me that they were calling to come to them, he ran into the pond, and he started to swim. And then Tony Randall, or I'm going to say the guy that looked like, because I didn't identify him, but very, 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 not similar, exact. So anyway, Tony Randall tells a guy that was with him, go get him. So two guys go into the, I think it was two guys, I'm pretty sure it was two guys, they went in and they grabbed him, and they pulled him out, and they grabbed him and shoved him into the Cadillac. They shut the doors, and they screeched off. I mean, they accelerated, they went, and they took off. And as a kid, I remember just staring, and I was like, what just happened? That was Tony Randall. There is nothing anybody can say that can convince me that that was not Tony Randall. That was Tony Randall. Tony Randall. It wasn't even a look-alike. It wasn't like I said, oh, there was a guy who looked like Tony Randall. That was not a look-alike. That was definitely, when I say definitely, I'm not kidding. It was definitely Tony Randall. So, and keep in mind, I was young back then, so it wasn't like I had dementia. It wasn't like I was 90 years old and I couldn't remember my name. And and I was a huge fan of the show. So I knew what Tony Randall looked like. So the car leaves, and I didn't go back and mention to my parents, because my parents had no idea what The Odd Couple was. They didn't watch that kind of stuff. So I was like walking in amazement. I was like, I just saw Tony Randall, and what the hell was that all about? So I walked back, and as I'm walking back to where my parents were, my mother is knocked out. She's like sleeping. She's enjoying the nice, you know, warm temperature, and it was evening time. It was like, you know, like 5, 6 o'clock. So as I'm walking back, I notice on the edge of the pond was a fish floating, and I want to add the adjective, a dead fish flowing. It was like just floating on top of the water, floating. And I said, wow, this is gonna be cool. I'm gonna bring it back. They're gonna be so proud that I even brought them back a fish. So I grabbed the fish out of the water. It was like maybe, I don't know, a few inches in, just floating. And I grabbed it and I brought it back, and my mother was knocked out, and I brought the fish back, and the thing was so smelly, like it was rotting, it was awful smelling, that it woke up my mother. And she got up all like shocked, like, what's that? And she was like doing this. And then she goes, get that out of here, where'd you find that? And I said, I found it over there in the pond. It's not edible. So anyway, yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened. So when I got a little bit older and the internet came around, I was like, I am going to write. Every time I would see Tony Randall, because he was a regular on the Late Show, you know, with David Letterman. I used to watch that show all the time. Late Night with David Letterman. When it was on NBC after Johnny Carson, after Tonight Show, he was on, and he had Tony Randall on quite often. I guess Tony Randall lived around the corner, and he would show up. I've been in that studio, very, very small, the original one. I don't know the other one at the Ed Sullivan Theater, if it was much bigger, but when he was in NBC Rockefeller Center, that studio was tiny. So I would watch that, and I would always say to myself, I saw him in real life, and I don't know what he was involved in, but something was going down that day with that guy. So anyway, I kept thinking, you know what, I need to figure out who can I contact that can contact him. I want to ask the question, was that you back then when I saw you at the pond? So many years went by. I finally decided I'm going to write a letter. So I sat at my desk. I was a big letter writer in those days. I would sit and write letters. Like, I would hear stuff on the radio that would annoy me, like a talk show or something, and I would disagree, and I would sit there and write a long letter, you know, and they would get it and they would tear it up and throw it in the garbage. Who would read that? Like, I imagine that they would sit there reading, oh, he's got a good point, I'm going to change my point of view now. No, they got the letter and I put that in the trash, get rid of it. And I would spend hours writing letters. Now we don't do that anymore. Now we text, things like that. But back then it was like, I would pull out my Parker pen, which is my pen that I wrote. Like 70–80% of the stuff I've written in my life were written with a Parker. I love Parker. Favorite pen. Anybody asks, you know, like a question like on Jeopardy, what is Parker? We'll say it's my favorite pen. What is Nick's favorite pen? It would be a Parker. So I sit there, I'm writing the letter, and I'm asking the question. I describe everything in detail, the Cadillac, the guy, exactly how it happened. And Tony Randall did not have dementia, so he would remember that situation. I mail it off. I found this like an agent that represented him, and I mailed it to the agent, and I didn't hear anything back. But what happened was, not too long after that, he died, Tony Randall. So that remains a mystery, unless the guy who was next to me ever writes a book and says, you know, I got in trouble with Tony Randall and he chased me down, and I will never know that to be a true event. I mean, the event happened. I wouldn't know that it was associated with Tony Randall, but I am here to say that I have no doubt, zero, about whether that was Tony Randall or not. That was Tony Randall. I mean, nobody looks that identical and, you know, wealthy and all that. And back then, to own a car like that, you know, meant you had some kind of money. So, yeah, it's always been something in the back of my head that I'm very curious, you know, like I want some confirmation. I want the guy that went into the pond, if you ever saw this video, I mean, that's like a billion to one shot. You know, it's like having 7 people, you know, I mean, 7 billion people on the planet, so a billion to one shot. Yeah, that's probably what it is for that guy. If he's still alive, I don't see why he wouldn't be. I mean, that guy back then, the way I'm picturing him, was probably early to mid 40s, something like that. Who knows? I mean, maybe he's in his, maybe he was a little bit young, maybe he was like late 30s. But anyway, yeah, and he was freaked out. I could tell, like, the way he was like, oh no, they found me. You know, he had that look like, they've discovered me, they found me. And he immediately, when he saw who it was, they opened up the door and told him, you know, hold it right there. He immediately ran into the pond. And I was thinking, you know, even back then, like, where are you gonna go? You're just gonna swim across. So Tony Randall, he said to the, he goes, go get him. And they went in. They were with suits. They had suits on, and so did he. He had a nice suit on. Not the guy that ran to the pond, but Tony Randall had a nice suit on. And the guys he sent after the guy that went into the pond, they had suits on too. So they went into that water with suits on. So yeah, I don't know. It was a iffy situation. And not only that, it wasn't just me. It was busy that day at the pond. So it was me watching it, and there were like maybe 10 or 12 other people that were eyewitnesses to that. So if anybody sees this video who was there on that day, back in the 70s when The Odd Couple was still on the air, please comment on this video. And give me the name of the pond. See, you'd have to know that in order for you to know that I'm going to believe you. Yeah. Well, like I said, that show made an impression on me. That whole theme, cool theme song. They don't make theme songs anymore. Now it's just like the show starts. Good tea, though. Yeah, I was watching a little bit of bowling on the internet, and I want to say, without a doubt, bowlers today are much better than bowlers of the past. You know, bowlers of the 70s, 60s, whatever. They were good back then too, but now they're much better. I mean, obviously you build on the experience of the past, so I mean, they can do splits now. I remember back then it was like what was that guy, Roth? So Mark Roth, I think, was the first guy to have a split on television. I think it was the 7 and 10 pin, and he hit it, I think the left, he hit the left, and then it went over and knocked down the pin. And they were like saying, I remember back then, because I was watching that, they were saying that this is the first time that a split 7-10 has been caught to be shown on television. And now if you go on YouTube and you type in split bowling, it'll give you lots of them. There's lots of them now. So people have gotten better, obviously. But just to say about bowling, it's pretty enjoyable. I like it. I like going. It's relaxing. Something about that, you're knocking down things, destructive, like a wrecking ball, and then somebody sets them up for you again, and you get to do it all over again. And then that noise is like an old-fashioned toilet from like the 60s, 70s flushing. You know that sound when you would flush a toilet and the water would jam down, it would make that sound like bowling pins were falling? Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. So yeah, that's what's happened in the past 24 hours. I was at Paramount, and I saw a bunch of interesting things. Yeah, that possum left. Came up, checked on me, and disappeared. I don't know where it went. And that bee left too. I said earthquakes. You know, you see a bee at night, it means that you're gonna have an earthquake. But I made that up, just like all of those things are. They're all made up. But we haven't had. I mean, we had an earthquake the other day. I didn't feel it though. And I was at the bowling alley when it happened, but I didn't feel it. I think it was a 4-point something. But years ago, there was a period of time where every few weeks the ground would shake. And now it's been a while. I'd like to be making a video and all of a sudden it starts to shake. That way I can be commenting on the magnitude. I can tell you how strong it is. I was one time at Walmart. I had just finished shopping. I was with my daughter. No, she wasn't born yet. No, that was another time. The first time when I was at Walmart, I was in line getting ready to check out, and I felt this sensation like I feel like it's going to start shaking. And just as I'm thinking that, it starts to go back and forth, and it looked like the momentum was just about ready to throw things off the shelves, and then it stopped. And the lady at the cash register, she was very emotional. She started crying. People had to calm her down. And then I was next in line. I got the stuff I left. Then my daughters were born, and this is like a few years ago. I went back to that Walmart. I still go there once in a while, but not that often. Back in the olden days when I lived closer to that spot, I would go there once a week, every Monday. But this time, a few years ago, we happened to be there shopping, and she was also there, but she was shopping. And she was in the, you know, the food area. You know, they have it divided into 2 sections. Well, she was in the grocery section, and I went to talk to her. So I went over there, I started talking to her, and I said, yeah, I was there the day the earthquake hit. And she remembered, not me specifically, but she remembered that situation. And then, I don't know if she was testing me, but she said to me, and what did I do? Meaning, what did she do? And I said, you started to cry. And she goes, yeah, that's me. And I said, yeah, because I was there. I was an eyewitness. I saw that. So yeah, it was like, it was calm, and then all of a sudden it made this motion, then it stopped. I don't mind the little ones, obviously, the little ones, you know, but the big one, I'm not interested in that. A lot of destruction, you get loss of life, you know, little ones, 3, 4, that's it. Release your anger, let the tectonic plates, you know, get all calm again after that. But I don't want to see anything like a 7, 8, something like that, no. That is devastating. I had a friend there one time. We were talking, and I said to him, I got a job where I go into the Earth's crust and I make sure that the tectonic plates are secure, and if I see anything that's loose, I will fasten like railroad tracks from one to the other, and then spike, and then reinforce it so that the tectonic plates don't move. And he goes, yeah, he goes, well, at least you have an interesting job. He thought I was being serious. I was not. There's no such thing as securing the tectonic plates. Cannot do that. First of all, too big. And secondly, you don't have the material. What are you going to do? Scotch tape it? I wonder what happened to that possum. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm done with my tea. A couple of sips left. And that's it. We're still on the air. Yeah, yesterday down at the Paramount Studios, they were saying, yeah, if you see that red light on, don't go in there, because that means they're taping. I'm thinking, who's going to go in there? Even if that red light's not on, I'm going to open up the door and go in there if I'm not told to go in there. It's like, let me be nosy, look around. So yeah, and happy days. Happy Days was in the same place, same, Laverne and Shirley was right next door. That's why they were able to do each other's shows easily. Yeah, I loved the opening to Laverne and Shirley. That song, the theme song to Laverne and Shirley, inspired you. You know, it was inspirational. And that 60s look, I see pictures of my mother. You know, she's like, you know, you'll see those glasses, the sunglasses that are kind of pointy on the edges, and somebody, you know, probably with a Kodak camera snapped a picture of her, and it just has that look. You can tell it's in the 60s, and she's got that Laverne and Shirley, that I don't know what they call that thing that goes on your head there. You know, when it's cold out, they put that, tie it up in the back. So my mother would wear that, the glasses from the 60s, and it's just different look. Now it looks totally different. Now it looks like, you know, you are, I don't even know what it looks like now. Messy. People don't dress the way they used to. In the old days, people dressed. And then somewhere in the mid 60s on, we started dressing, I don't know, more for comfort than for looks. Remember, you would see somebody from the old days. They always had a hat. Always had a hat. They dressed nicely. A lot of them wore suits. Even like when they were just hanging around on their day off, they would have a suit on, or they would be at home. They would put on a suit on with a tie. They'd grab the morning paper. They'd sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee, and they would read the morning paper. All that stuff's done. Nobody does that anymore. First of all, nobody dresses like that. If it's your day off, you're probably in your underwear all day, or your pajamas, you know, or something, you know, like jeans and a t-shirt like I got on. But, you know, nobody puts on a suit and tie and goes grocery shopping. That's all done. But I remember in the old days, the hat was popular in those days. People had a derby or a fedora or something like that. Nice aftershave. Men shaved daily. If not daily, every couple of days they shaved. Now you're lucky to, you know, see somebody shave every 10 days. You start getting that homeless look, and then hey, we go shave. And even then, they may do a half-assed job where there's whiskers on the side, a couple of things missing here, the rest of it's all in. But yeah, in the old days, they would get up in the morning, go into the bathroom, they would shave, brush their teeth, gargle, maybe take a shower, but shaving for sure. Then they would Aqua Velva, Old Spice. He'd come out smelling nice and fresh. Had a guy one time when I was a kid, carpool. He had a son, went to the same school, and my parents, it was very hard for them to bring me to that school. So they found somebody who was in the neighborhood who also had a son, went to that school, and he had his name on a list, and my father contacted him. Very nice guy, this guy. And my father said to him, how much do you want, you know, pay you every week? He's like, I don't want anything. He goes, I go that way anyway. I don't want any money. Really nice guy. So he gave me a ride every single morning. Very professional. He looked like he was a businessman. And he had, first of all, his hair was always perfectly cut. Always. Like he went to the barbershop. To me, it looked like twice a month. That's what it looked like. And in the morning, I would get in the car. He always had a suit on. If it was a little bit chilly out, he had like a trench coat on. And his hair was always perfect. He had a comb to the side. He had what they call the combination of Old Spice and water in his hair. And when I would get in the car, it would smell like a barbershop. Very fresh. So I would get in there and he would say, what do you say, Nick? First time he said that, I was like, what does that mean? What do I say? I go, what do you mean? And now I know he's like, what do you say? And I say, how you doing? Something like that. But first time I heard that, I was like, what do you mean? What do I say? I thought it was like a trick question. But yeah, very, very professional guy. Very nice guy. Always smelled like Old Spice. Old Spice, refreshing. You'd get in there, it was like, you know, like I said, like a barbershop after you get a haircut when they put all that stuff on you. And he was always shaved. You didn't even see stubble, even a 1/100th of an inch. You saw nothing. It was like always shaved off. He was the kind of old-fashioned guy where they shaved every morning. So yeah, and he loved the oldies. And when I say the oldies, the 1940s music, Glenn Miller, that kind of stuff. And when I first started getting a ride with him, I was not exposed to that. You know, I knew who Glenn Miller was, but I wasn't exposed to listening to that. But then I got into it. I know it's strange, but I got into that music after, and then every morning I was almost like, you know, if he ever had it down low, I was like, turn that up. I want to hear some of that stuff. They had the cool DJ guy. He talked like he was from the 40s, and he would put songs that were big hits, the hit parade. Big hits back in, like, you know, 1941, 42, World War II years. So I don't know if he's still around, because he was kind of up there in age back then, and that was a long time ago, so who knows. But very nice guy, and he exposed me to a kind of music, a style of music that on my own I never would have gravitated to. I never would have said I could listen to some Glenn Miller orchestra. But now I appreciate it. I appreciate all kinds of music. You know, all kinds. Anyway, that's it for now. Ciao.